Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Heather Frierson, and I'm your host of the Business Spotlight podcast. And today I have Tab Pierce, the founder of Caliber Security. And today he's going to be diving into his business journey, best practices, challenges, and really just share a sneak peek of what it's like to own and operate a business. So, if this is your first time to the show, be sure to like and subscribe so you get a notification every time a new show drops, just like this one. Well, Tab, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's an honor and a privilege. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, if you could just set the stage for our listeners and just give us a brief background about who you are and Caliber Security.
So I'll do my best not to take too much time and because I just turned 60 years old this year. So it's really
Congratulations.
hard. It's really hard to make it to 60 years old and like not like have done stuff, right? And so it's like your laundry list of things to say like
Hmm.
grows, but I'll try to be quick. So I'm in the Phoenix, Arizona area. As you mentioned, I'm the founder of Caliber Security Partners. I got involved with cybersecurity about 25 years ago, before it was information security, when it was just part of IT. And Caliber's 14 years old, and we work with really at this point in time businesses of all sizes, just
Mm-hmm.
helping them do deep level security testing and security. And in addition to that, I'm the co not co-founder, co-manager of Arizona's largest business community called Network Live, and then I own a couple of other small companies, and then starting up a new company, which I'm super excited about, but I won't get into far with that. But that is my moonshot. It's a company called Lunir, Lunir. And then I'm a uh, three-time author. And so stuff
Wow.
like that. Yeah. So, um, but security is where I've made my money. It's where I've made majority of my mistakes. It's
Mm.
everything, everything wrapped up into that good, bad, ugly, and different. So.
Yeah. Were your books about cybersecurity?
No, I've never written about cybersecurity.
Really?
The thing is with security is, when it's funny because when you do something for 25 years, it's a long time, right? And so people see cybersecurity as this new cutting edge technology. And I'm
Mm.
like, it's not that new for me. It's been around
Yeah.
for a while. So I tell people I like security, that more coaching, mentoring, training
Mm.
that we do with Network Live is what I love. But we don't make the money that we make with security. So my books have all been, my first book was about my journey from doing everything I possibly could to destroy Caliber, personally and professionally, a million in debt, paying
Mm.
that off, and just what that
Wow.
journey was like. And then the second one was called Outlast Everything. And the third one is just basically there's a guy that I've been just a huge fan of called Charles Hanel, who wrote a program in 1912 called the Master Key System that nobody really hardly knows about.
Mhm.
But it was what Napoleon Hill credits getting his interest in foundation with. And so I wrote a decoding the Master Key System. Now, because it was written in 1912, and the English is like it's 1912.
So, would you say that, let's just say, if you had your preference,
Mm-hmm.
would writing and being an author be something as you journey into the next season of life that you would want to focus more on versus cybersecurity?
I really want to focus on life, and I want to
Mm,
focus on what brings me joy and happiness. And you know, I I'm a creator by heart, and this is one of the things I try to get across to people all the time is, you know, I have four companies plus multiple other endeavors that I do plus writing in that. And then what happens is I create all this, and I am a religious, so I'll go to God and say, God, can you help me? And then I'll drive down the road and complain about the fact that I've got all these things. And I think one day I thought about it, I was like, what kind of message am I sending if I ask and then I complain? So I try
mm,
not to do that. Um, but as far as writing goes, I've never considered myself an author. The first one was therapeutic. It was because I
Mm,
was in a very, very dark place, and I started writing to kind of soothe my soul. And
mm,
I finished it, and then I was like, years later, I was like, man, like there's a new story, a chapter to what I learned,
mm.
and so I wrote that, and then, but I've already got a fourth one in my head. I do not consider myself an author. Um, Maybe I consider myself a soapboxer, and a book is as good as place as any to get on a soapbox and start ranting. So,
I
yeah,
love that so much. I think it's, cathartic anyway to write. And so
yeah,
the fact that you even said that, but then you're also giving back through your writing as well. So
yeah,
I kind
yeah,
of want to dive in deeper to what you talked about in the first book, how you went in debt 1 million and came back.
yeah,
And that's a really big challenge. And I have a feeling that some of our listeners might be there or close to it.
yeah,
So can you share a little bit of that journey of how
yeah.
you overcame that?
Yeah, and so here's the thing that I learned. When you're in a really, really bad spot, and you basically are looking for a lifeline, like
Mm,
who can teach me, who can help me, who can guide me, who can, right? And whatever that is. And I would go, and I found out something. I found out women are very honest and forthright, and men are guarded. And so I'd go and I would
mm,
say, "How's business?" Because I'm always still a sales guy by nature, or connector, whatever you want to call it. And I'd go out, and women would go like, "Oh, it's tough. It's this, it's that." Men would be like, "Oh, I'm slaying it. It's great. It's this." And I'd be like, "Man, it's not for me. It's horrible, and it's this." And then they'd go, "Okay, so maybe it's not that great for me." And I'd always go like, "Why? Why can't you just be honest?" But
yeah.
um, the journey was, and I had somebody tell me one time, like, "How did you let yourself get in that position?" And he was judging me, honestly.
Mm,
And then he came back about a year later and said, I owe you an apology. I managed to 3x what you did,
wow.
or worse. And what happens is you always see what's around the corner, as a positive. So, we had eight contractors on at a client. The contract was up. They had not renewed it, but they said, "We're renewing it. Just hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on." And then the person gets transferred. And it was 8 weeks of eight people. And then so I was robbing Peter to pay Paul to make sure I got those guys paid
Mm,
because the contract was coming. Well, then we
right.
take out a hard money loan. We don't pay the IRS. I end up getting a guy, or not that, one of my employees contracts cancer. We
Mm,
did not have short-term or long-term disability at that time. We do now. And I opted to keep him on because I thought that was the right thing to do. And I saw him on Friday, and he was like tearing up, and that's like, "Hey, thanks." And that was 8 years ago. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. And I said, "Okay, but if I had to do it again and I didn't have a short or long term disability, I would have had to let you go." It
mm,
almost killed the company. Just and so what happens is that you you go through every possible thought. I'm a fake. I'm a fraud. I'm a failure. What made me think I
mm,
could do this? I'm no good. My family deserves better. And you just beat yourself up.
mm,
And you look at this as like the darkest days of your life, and what you never and you automatically go to default worst case scenario, right? You'll wake up in the middle of the
mm.
night, and like I owed $250,000 to the IRS. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night going, "Oh my gosh, Wesley Snipes went to jail for tax evasion.
Oh
i'm,
yeah, remember.
I'm going to jail." And I couldn't
Mm,
sleep. I was freaking out. And then I get a hold of my tax attorney. Which, by the way, if there's anybody that owes a crud to the IRS, send me a message. Believe it or not,
mm,
the IRS is unbelievable to work with, and everybody is like, "What, really? That can't be true." Like they are so good to work with,
wow.
because you can't file bankruptcy and that goes away. So
Mm,
they're willing to work with you, and they're it's crazy the stuff that they'll tell you to basically circumvent their system. So it's a win for
mm,
you, but it helps them. But anyway,
wow.
the thing that I never considered was that what I consider to be the darkest day of my life. And it was literally, it was not literally, it was like a figuratively a light switch being turned off in my life. And I was
Mm,
talking to, I was doing on my own fireside chat podcast kind of thing. And I had said it was the darkest day of my life. And the guy said, don't do that. He goes,
mm,
what you just did is shut off all the possibilities of what could be great. And it was like a light switch went back on because like the what I gained from that was worth every penny of $1 million because it's
mm,
changed me as a person. It's changed me as a business owner. It's opened up things that I would never have had. I would not recommend going and doing it, but since I was there, I guess my point is like look at the possibilities. Don't just look at the negatives if you're in a bad spot,
mhm.
because if you come out of it, you're going to be like a dragon slayer.
Mm. Look at the positive possibilities and not just the negatives.
Yeah, man, don't even look at the negatives. I mean, it's like I look back and I'm like, the amount of time that I wasted looking at every silly, stupid worry
Mm.
and even like, I think it was someday I got to go back and read my book again. It's on Audible. I can listen. Um,
Yeah.
but I think it was 17 or 18 people, business owners, individuals,
Mm.
government agencies and whatever. And
Wow.
I finally realized that if it finally dawned on me because I realized I'd become really good at business restructuring, because if you're stupid enough to loan me money, that's on you. That's not on me. I will pay it back. And I did pay it all back, but I became the bank. And that sounds
Mm,
ruthless and mean. But when you're in a situation where, you owe a lot of money and that's your challenge, you feel like you're unworthy and you have to go
mm.
in and say, you know what, I'm going to be ruthless. I'm going to pay you back. But in order to pay you back, I have to be ruthless. So do you want me to be ruthless and pay you back, or do you want me to be nice and file bankruptcy? That was really the choice.
Wow. Wow. That is really incredible. What was your support system like during that season?
Well, okay, so this is great, and I always kind of forget. So I would go to people and I would say I'm in this spot, and pretty much everybody said, and I'm talking peers. I belonged to at the time a rather large advisory board
Hmm.
community, and everybody's advice was you should file bankruptcy, close your doors, and go get a job. I'm like, that's cool, but $250,000 is owed to the IRS, and my best opportunity to pay it back is this business. And so
Mm,
my goal was pay the IRS back and file bankruptcy. But um, most people thought that was a bad idea, just file bankruptcy. And I'm glad I didn't listen. I had a couple of people that were really good, but there's very, very few people that
hmm.
when you're in a bad spot are there. But the one was my wife. Like
Mm,
and I mean, I can't say that enough. I mean, like I didn't realize it. I went to her and said, "Would you write the first chapter in my book?" And she wrote it. I wasn't this bad, but it was almost like, oh wow, I read it and I almost went like, oh wow, you were there too. I mean, not really, but
yeah.
but, but it had never dawned on me that like I would come home beaten and torn up and all of that,
Hmm.
and she would absorb it, and she would pick
Mm,
me up and she'd lift me up and she'd say, you know what, you're fully capable. Look at all that you've done. Look at everything you're capable of
mm.
doing. I get it. You're tired, but go to sleep, dust yourself off. And then I'd go back out and do it. And she
Yeah.
carried me emotionally a lot,
Wow.
even financially. I mean, like what we had to do to get over that on a personal level, I mean, was ugly.
Yeah.
And her only ad, I'll call it advice, but dictate maybe was let's solve it, but don't do it again.
Yeah.
Something
Wise
like
woman.
that. And I was like, what's that?
I said,
Yeah,
wise woman.
yeah. And I was like, well, you don't really have to tell me that, but I'm definitely going to take that advice.
Yeah. I
Anyway,
love that so much. I think that's so wise. And I think it's probably comforting to a lot of people listening right now as they're not seeing the numbers go the right way, if you will. So from that experience, how has
Yeah.
that really enabled you to be even a better business owner and leader today?
Well, so the reason why I wrote my second book, Outlast Everything, is because I realized that if you just hang around long enough, everybody else will go away. Everything else will go away. You have to do it in the right way. But what I learned was, if you just say no enough, if you say I can't do it enough, I can't, whatever it is, the timing's off. That you can build this level of resilience that you've never had. And so
Mhm.
the outcome of that is, we paid that off. We paid that million off in 26 months. Um,
Wow.
but that meant, my wife and myself out driving Uber so we could just
Mhm.
get enough money to pay stuff off and put it all back into the company. Um, you know, just like brutal and ruthless, but we come out the other side of it. And
Mhm.
I'm like, you know what? I'm a better business person. I have more empathy. I had started another company called Refiners that we absorbed into Network Live. But then we came here to Arizona and we ended up acquiring this company, and what is now Network Live. And I spent a lot of my time working with people that are in rough spots, man, just freaking
Mhm.
rough spots, and coaching them. But and I'm working on this other project that we jokingly say if we're just really horrible and we're bad and it doesn't work out, we'll probably both walk away with about 50 million off of this project
Wow.
because of the level of cutting edge that we're doing within security. But if it goes well, like we believe it will, we're talking billions. So the reason why I bring that up is I got a Facebook memory that was 8 years ago. It was my first day driving Uber, and it just kind of all flushed back. And I'm like, man, it's only
Mhm.
been 8 years,
Wow.
and it all seems, when you're going through it, it seems like an eternity. Then you're on the other side, and you're like,
Mhm.
it's really only been 8 years. And in 8 years, well, call it 10 years, I went from a million in debt to, you know, significantly positive. I'll just leave it at that,
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and, you just kind of have to learn that life is full of seasons and that not all of them is
Mhm.
going to be summer like it is, in Arizona. Even summer in Arizona is 115. So that's painful. But you can't. The thing I tell people all the time is like, my identity was Caliber. I was
Mhm.
Caliber Security. And so as that went ebbed and flowed, it was like I was bipolar. I would be like, yes, I'm great, I'm this, I'm that. And then it would go down. I'd be like, I'm horrible,
Mhm.
I'm this. And
Mhm.
finally, like, I got exhausted. And one day
Wow.
I was like, I have to separate myself. And in essence, I divorced myself from my own company. And I just said, my company is its company. It's its own entity. I'm going to make it work. But now, I mean, even though it's great, if I had to, I'd be like, oh, this is a great run. I'm done. And I wouldn't like take it personally or feel like I'm a failure or a success. It just is what it is. And that's the hardest thing people have to get
Yeah.
get through to themselves, is that their identity is not their business,
Mm.
or vice versa.
I That is so good. I wrote it down. My identity was caliber, and you became almost bipolar. Whatever. If it was good, it
Yeah.
was good. And I think so many of us can identify with that so
Oh yeah.
much.
Yeah.
So
And
then,
I'd love to say that I'm unique and that I'm the only one that ever went through
yeah.
that, but I know that a lot of your listeners are in a dark
Mhm.
place right now, and it's like, and as bad as it's gonna, as rough as this sounds, like you're in a dark place of your choosing. Um,
Mm.
you can choose to lighten it up and make it nice, and you can have all these. I mean, I had a hard money lender that I wheeled $250,000 to, that would send me uppercase texts threatening me, telling me that they were coming to my office to
My
seize our
gosh.
assets with the police, and I'd send the few people I had at the company home. Like, everybody work from home today. This is back before we did that. and I'd wait. And finally, one day I was like, you can yell at me, you can scream at me, you can call my mom, you can call my daughter, you can call my
Mm,
wife, you can do everything you're doing, but I will pay you when I'm ready to pay you. And the more
mm,
you do that, the less likely I am. And I finally told him, I'm like, you guys are the biggest nuisance to me in my life. I will pay you last. We'll
mm.
get your money, but I will pay you last because I hate you guys. And they're like, and I'm like, and I said, and I will not,
The
and
bully.
yeah, it got ugly and it got ruthless, but I didn't know him, and just like anything else, I paid him off the final payment. I've never heard from him again. So why
Mm,
in the world would you waste all that energy and that effort on
mm.
somebody that's just a bit actor in your life?
Yeah,
And we
so
do that.
good. So, what makes you so passionate about what you do now?
Um, probably just having conversations like this and just realizing that my past isn't my present, my present
Mm,
my future, and that I a lot of my friends and past peers, colleagues, and that are out on the golf course, and they're out like they're saying, "When are you going to quit? You have enough money to quit now, and why don't you stop?" I was thinking, "Do what?" I mean, man, I
mm,
love creating. I love working. God willing, I'll be like 100 years old, pushing my walker up, smacking people,
mhm,
saying back in my day, whatever the case is, it's like I do not want to stop this. I want to look at this and say, after working for, call it 36, 37 years, if by the grace of God, I'm like at the midway point of my career, like I'm not at
mm.
the end of it, I'm at the midway. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that excites me, not
Yeah,
quitting.
yeah. I I I feel the same way. I've actually said that phrase before and I've heard it before. Quit and do what?
Hmm. I
You
mean, you
know,
think
it's
about it,
all
it's like, okay, I quit, I golf. Then what? Okay, then the next thing is, retirement home, then like assisted living, then death. I mean, it's like the reverse of growing up when you're a kid and you're
yeah.
like, can't wait till I'm 16 years old and I get to get a car. And then you get all these like age milestones. And now we're in the reverse. And it's like, I just keep telling myself I, excuse me, I don't want to do it. I just, you know,
Yeah.
I want, they're like, what do you want to, do you want to like someone to find you dead at your desk? And I'm like, I'm okay with
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
I'm doing what I love. I mean,
Hmm.
it's their perception that that's bad. And
Yeah.
people, I had my sister who passed away several years ago was like, nobody ever says at their last day, like, I wish I would have worked more. And I'm like, well, I sure as heck am. I'll be the first one to
Hmm.
be like, dang it. And
Yeah. So
so,
give us a little bit of a background of cyber security or
uh-huh,
caliber security, I'm sorry. And
sure.
what is the network live you've mentioned a couple
Yeah.
of
Yeah. So, caliber security. So there's a lot, security is a lot, right? There's a lot of different
times? Hmm.
domains within security. Really what Caliber does is we do what's called penetration testing. So we go in and we look at somebody's network, we look at their mobile or web applications, the things that they develop, they create, that they protect, and we test it to find out how secure they are.
Mm.
And I mean, like most small businesses will think, you know, um, I really don't have anything to worry about. And it's like, well, if you're on WordPress, you do. WordPress is the most um, uh, unsecure, insecure, whatever you want to call it, platform there is. And
Hmm.
so if you're on WordPress, yeah, you've got issues. I can guarantee you, like the likelihood is that you have issues. So everybody
Yeah.
needs to be tested and to be aware. Um, Network Live, started out here locally in Arizona's Networking Phoenix, and we started to branch out. We're still branching out, so we're in El Paso, we're in Utah, we're in Vegas, and
Mm.
expanding out. But we really started out as really built to because one of our services is that we have this. Uh, well, most people call them masterminds. I hate that term because it's been just misused. But really, peer-to-peer advisory board groups for business owners or business leaders, and that is what our real goal and our drive is. But we have, we do mixers, business mixers here in Phoenix, and get a couple hundred people out at each one of them. We
Mm,
do them in other places with varying levels of success. But really, we do those. We have some that are free. We use
mhm.
those as lead gen. We have a $20 a month connections membership, which gives people access to Zoom training. It gives them access to just a bunch of stuff, um,
Yeah.
including our Mastery Alliance program. Well, no, I guess Mastery Alliance is like $30 a month total, including connections, and that's the program that I use to get $1 million out of debt. Oh,
Mm,
and then we go up from there. But our real goal is uh, to build a community of raving fans. And the whole idea of doing $20 a month, which people say we're crazy, is like if one person shows up or 1,000 people shows up, our effort is the same, but it spreads out the expense to everybody else. And it's funny because the difference between somebody willing to spend $0 and somebody spending $20, the quality of people are
mhm,
significantly different. And
mhm,
not speaking about us, but speaking about like what you do and what other people do. If I saw Damon John did uh, a survey one time and asked the
mhm.
question, how much money do you spend on yourself for personal growth training? And it was something like 0 to 5,000 all the way up to 100,000 plus. And the high achievers all,
Mhm,
and you could tell, you just looked at the titles, right? The high achievers all spent a lot of money, a
mhm.
lot of money. One guy I know that responded to it spends $400,000 a year on his own coach.
Wow.
I know him personally. Um, Unfortunately, none of that with me, but that's a whole nother story. Um,
Mhm.
but my point of that is everybody who complained and ridiculed and poked and made fun of were low achievers.
Mm,
And
it's
it's,
good.
yeah, it's sad, but
It is. So
we yeah, go
what
ahead.
would
I'm
you
sorry.
say to what would you say to anyone listening who's maybe in that zero range that just feels like right now I can't move, pay that or do anything? Where do they start? Or what would your encouragement be?
I would say you've got to spend, even if it's $20 a month or
Mhm.
300, 400, in a pop, 1,000, whatever it is. You have to invest in yourself because it's not just what you learn, it's who you get to know. It's the
Mhm.
connections, I mean, the we do, as an example, we do a monthly executive business lunch, and it's 2.5 hours. People come in, they, our members, we basically do it at cost for our members, and then like everybody else pays twice as much. So it's not a big money maker. It's actually another lead gen for us. I mean, I
Mhm.
just call it
Mhm.
what it is, right? It's like I'm not willing to pay for your food, but I'm willing to do everything and set it up. But in that time period, for that small investment, one,
Mhm.
the quality of people goes up.
Yeah.
Two, conversations change. It's not, if you're familiar with BNI or LaTip or anything like that,
Mhm.
where it's, you bring leads. We don't do that. That's not what we do at all. But but we end up having people do significant amount of business with each other because they do business with people they like, know, and trust.
Yeah.
We had one guy that came and said, "Hey, I just signed a deal," uh, because he does like real estate drone services where they
Oh,
do
wow.
photography and that. And he was like, "Hey, I signed a deal from off of that executive business lunch." I'm like, "Yeah, like that happens because you go enough and people are like, they feel comfortable and they do business." So,
Mhm.
you know, you have to get out of that scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
You have to get it into, that growth mindset and get out of that fixed mindset. And for whatever that price is, I mean, it just means like stop having a latte twice or once a week. Go from 7 to 6, whatever it is, but find it. Um,
Mm,
yeah, I mean,
so
and
good.
yeah, and if you're just so frickin' broke, which there are those people out there,
Yeah.
um, you know, turn to turn to books, turn to audio, turn to
Hmm.
YouTube. There's so many options out there. The only reason why I don't choose that one is because I like the more engaged live
Yeah.
uh, human interaction.
Yeah. I agree. So you talked about a little bit how you don't ever see yourself really exiting. You're too creative. But what about your businesses? Where do you see your businesses in the next 3 to 5 years?
Ooh, so Caliber, I see us probably exiting that in about 3 years, and focusing in some other areas. So the businesses may go away. I'm not going away.
Yeah.
Network Live, I see us having at least 1,000 paid members within probably about 2 to 3 years from now. And that's just the baseline. That's that $20 a month. And then I
Hmm.
see us growing that and really being um, whatever you want to call it, like a helpmeet, a service,
Hmm.
or like a real legitimate, like real provider of value. And I say it like
Hmm.
that because, the more I get involved with this and the more, because we do an annual conference. Oh, and my wife well, she didn't, we did acquired we're acquiring a women's conference, women's group. And so there'll be a lot in that area. I don't know where I was going with that, but just exciting, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Well, you
I,
were talking about 3 to 5 years where you'd be. So
yeah,
that's another asset.
yeah. So it's like growth in that area. And then the Lunir, which is our security, this other security company, Lunir. Um, uh, I just threw up a like totally crappy website today, Lunir It's total junk. But it's like to get something up there.
Hmm.
And I see us probably 5 years with that one, and it'll be a rocky road of investors and potentially being acquired. And then I'll do something else. Um,
Yeah.
but it's always something, and I made a commitment to myself not to write another book in 2025. We'll see if I can stay true to that.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of us that would like to read it. So maybe 2026, but
Yeah,
sometime soon,
well,
hopefully.
yeah, 2026 will be it for sure. I don't think I can wait another any longer than that before the itch starts needing
Yeah.
to be scratched. Yeah.
Well, before we get into our fun rapid fire questions, is there anything that you want to share with the audience that we haven't covered yet?
No, no. I think the only thing, since we spent so much time talking about the
Hmm.
trials and tribulations of what we did or
Hmm.
experienced at Caliber, I would seriously tell people you are not alone. Don't feel like you're
Hmm.
going alone. Don't feel like you're doing something that nobody else has done. Reach out to people. Reach out to me. I mean, whatever. I mean, it is. Um, I guess that's the only thing I would say is
Yeah,
just I would double down on the fact that don't be an island.
that's so good. I love that. It's great advice. All right, you ready for some fun rapid fire questions?
I am ready. I am ready. I don't know that I'm ready for the answers but
I
I'm ready.
think you'll be fine. You'll be fine. What do you think is the key to success for you?
Um, Treating every day like it's a new beginning. Looking at things as possibilities, not keeping that creativity and imagination alive.
Hmm.
Refuse to grow up. Most of our parents talked us out of our imagination when we were very young,
Mm,
and mine did the same thing, but I was stubborn, thankfully. Um, and just look at possibilities and not obstacles.
yeah, I love that. What do you think your advice, or what is your advice to other business owners?
Um, you know, there's so much. I guess the advice I would have is, um, get out and network, get out and communicate, get out and
Mm,
have conversations with people. And when you're having conversations with people, don't have a pre-set plan of what you want to get out of it. Go into it that you want to build a relationship that'll last decades,
mm,
and that somebody might say something that might spark your interest. I mean, the amount of things that I end up getting my fingers involved in just because I listened and I don't go in. I never go to a networking event with business cards. I'm just like,
mm,
if you really, 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 really want to do business with me, you're going to find me. You'll find me on LinkedIn or wherever.
mm.
And but it's get out, right? I mean, you're
Yeah,
you're 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 the best champion for your business. And so if you don't have time to champion your business, or you're like, I'm an introvert or whatever,
yeah,
man, go pretend you're an extrovert. All right.
yeah,
You don't have to stop being an introvert. Just go fake it. Not fake it
yeah,
till you make it. Just get out there.
yeah, for sure. All right, book or podcast? What are you reading or listening to right now?
Oh, I'm actually reading, and this is total self promotion, and it's not intended. I'm reading my Outlast Everything book again.
Mm,
I read my books periodically because I really wrote them for me.
mm,
Uh, I need to go back and read my first book, Upsurge, because it was so raw, and I tend to lose that edginess. Some of that's
mm.
good that I lost, but some of it, I need to get back. Like the whole, like, I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning doing this. I'm like, yeah, here you are, buddy. Yeah, sure you are. Time to get back in. Time to get back in the ring. But I prefer that. As far as podcasts go, because I'm a security guy, um, I like anything that is uh, like challenges human nature. So I love anything that's true crime,
Mhm.
or things that people will do that are malicious, that they
Yeah.
get that way because they've been pushed into a corner. So I'm really
Mm.
fascinated from that, from a security standpoint. So
It's interesting. Yeah. Very good. All right. Last and final question, or rapid fire. It's kind of a fun one. If you had a little bit of magic dust and
I
could
do have
sprinkle it,
magic dust. I do have
well,
magic. I have a 55-gallon drum of magic dust. So anyway, go ahead.
well, then where do you sprinkle it? Where do you sprinkle that dust?
I sprinkle it on everybody else. Like my thing is like when I meet somebody, when I talk to anybody, I want them to feel like they are the most important person in my life. They're the
Mm-hmm.
most important person in my
Mm,
world. I want them. I want to. I don't want to look at my phone. And if I do have to look at my phone, I apologize, ask
yeah.
permission, and then I do that. But when I talk to people, I want to look them in the eyes. I want them to feel like, man, they are special. And I don't do it for any other reason, but they are special.
Yeah.
And in that given time, that moment, they're the most important person to me, right?
Mm.
And so that's the magic dust. And I don't really have a 55-gallon drum of magic dust, but that magic dust that we all carry with us. um I mean, joking, I mean, you can either spread that magic dust on people, or you can
Mhm.
pick up a handful of sand and throw it in their face and blind them.
Mm.
That's our choice when we go toe to toe with somebody. Do we impact? Well, we are going to impact, but is it positive?
You are the only one out of all my guests that have ever said they had magic dust already. And I love that. Are we going
Yeah.
to impact people, or in the good way or a negative way?
Yeah.
I think
But
that's
again,
so powerful.
you got to remember, I've got a great imagination. So, in my world, I just got a guy like pulling my 55-gallon magic drum around, and I'm just doing this with my magic. I'm just throwing the magic dust. So you get some magic dust. Everybody gets a car.
I love it. You get a car. You get a car.
Yeah.
That's great.
I
All
haven't
right,
even
before we
had any
get,
caffeine yet today.
oh no.
I have to lay off before I get started.
Oh, that's awesome though. That's great energy. I love that. Okay, before the last question of the day, where can everybody find you, connect with you, hire you, all the things?
Yeah, so uh, it's a weird reason, but I'm grateful that my parents named me Tab. There's not too
Mm.
many tabs,
Hmm.
and there's only two Tab Pierces. One looks like me, one doesn't. One lives in Oklahoma, and one lives here in Arizona. You can find me on LinkedIn, Tab
Hmm.
Pierce. You can find me on Instagram, Tab Pierce, Facebook, Tab Pierce, YouTube, Tab Pierce. I think maybe it's the Tab Pierce on most of them. Um, but yeah, and
We'll
then
link it in the show notes too.
what's that?
We'll link your LinkedIn in the show notes
Yeah,
too, for sure, so people
and
can
and,
connect.
and then Tab Pierce at Gmail. I mean, if you want to reach out and you want to talk to me and you can't find me, you didn't try hard enough.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
All right, final question of the day. What is most inspiring you today, Tab?
Who's most inspired? It's the same person that inspires me every day, and that's my wife.
Mm,
You know, um, she's a unique person. She works with me in all of my businesses. I am often like people will say like, oh, you know, Tab runs Network Live, and I'm quick to say, no, I'm just the face. I'm the she's the engine, and she's the
mm,
engine behind all of it. And any success that I've had in my life, and I don't mean this like it is because of her. It's because of her
yeah.
um, lifting me up, her picking me up, her like putting and I will say it like this, like I've never done anything stupid, but I'm a guy, so I do stupid stuff. And for me to go back and apologize and say, hey, I'm sorry I said that, I'm sorry I did that, I shouldn't have done it, I should have checked with you. And her
Mm,
response is always, what are you talking about, you're practically perfect. And
wow.
it becomes, and that would be a thing that I would say to people is, if you're with somebody and you have an option to say, why can't you do this, or why don't you do this, it makes it unbelievably difficult for me to live up to you're practically perfect.
Mm,
And so I then have to go like, well, no, I'm not. But if you think that, then I got to live up to that. So
mm.
she's manipulative. That's what that is. It's just her manipulating me, and it works.
It works.
I see it coming. Yeah,
I love that. Sounds like y'all got a great relationship.
yeah,
That's
it's
sweet to
yeah,
hear.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
good.
I love that. Well, this is a great conversation. I feel like you have so much to give that we
I
could
had
talk so much more.
I had a fantastic time. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for
It
having me
was.
on.
You're welcome. And I just want to encourage everyone to save the show and come back and listen to it, because Tab really did have some great advice. But more importantly, go connect with him on LinkedIn and follow him, and just stay connected. So once again, if this is your first time to the show, don't forget to like and subscribe so you get notification every time a new show drops, just like this one. And thank you for everyone who joined us today, but a special thank you to you, Tab. It was great
Thank
meeting
you.
you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, until next time. Bye-bye.